It is Matt Mosley, the Matt Mosley Show, and Joey McGuire joining us now. And Joey, I mean, for years, Texas Tech was sort of the, underdog, scrappy, and I'm sure you'll try to, in some ways, keep some of that mentality. But, man, there's no hiding this. You guys have become the bullies. You got a bye in the first round of CFP. Let me start out by just congratulating you because, I mean, you kind of tried to paint this vision and talk about where Tech was headed. And I think people were probably like, well, okay, maybe. And then it's now happened. It's come to fruition. And now you guys get to wait and see who your opponent will be in the Orange Bowl. So congratulations. How are things going? Has it been a lot of fun since winning that Big 12 championship game?
Well, first, thanks for having me, man. I will tell you, last Saturday was just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, Red Raiders have been waiting for this for a long time. It was really cool going into the week. I was getting so many messages and cards and letters sent to the football facility just saying, hey, we've been waiting for this, as long as we can remember. And they showed up, man. It was a packed house. It was really loud. And it was incredible. I'd already come here, so I didn't get to experience the Baylor 2021 Big 12 championship. And so missed out on that, but, got to be a part of this one. And it was absolutely incredible.
I mean, did the Bears get you a ring at least or something? You were a big part of that season. I want to make sure you were taken care of.
Yeah, they did, man. They did. They treated me well.
Yeah, I had a vision of you after I think Baylor beat 2021 before you had taken the Tech job. You all beat the University of Texas. I think that game was in Waco that year. And I just have some memory of you and the coaches down there. It was just a different level of excitement. And I don't even remember if UT was that great then, but I think y'all had been down by 10. You came back. Y'all might have been down like 24-14 or something. Came back, won that game. But I remember for that staff and everybody, that was a big moment. Does that ring true to you? Do you remember that? Because I kind of have this vision of y'all celebrating down there on the field.
Yeah, that was incredible, man. Jalen Petrie and Terrell Menard played their tails off. Jalen had some big plays for negative, tackles for loss. And, that was a big moment. That was such a good team. And you've got Jalen Petrie playing lights out in the NFL. You've got Tyquan Thornton playing lights out in the NFL. You've got Terrell Bernard. He's a captain for the Buffalo Bills. And, man, that was such a great team, man. I remember that. You're 100% right on those moments.
Does Jacob Rodriguez the other day, you got another linebacker that was just like everything that touched his hands. He was reeling in there. Any of those, do you have any? I mean, does anybody remind you of Bernard or Petrie the other night? You saw him for the Texans, just completely like one of the more violent hits we've seen in a while. He's probably one of the nicer, greatest young men you could ever meet, and yet he's probably one of the most violent players in the NFL, which is kind of an interesting. But again, clean. I don't think anybody would say, "Oh, the guy's gonna play dirty" or anything. Any of those. Any of these guys Rodriguez is such an incredible story because, he's a quarterback. And I think I heard you on an interview recently kind of joking like, yeah, he can come here if he'll play linebacker. And not only does he play linebacker for you, and that's kind of like an old Gary Patterson thing, isn't it? Kind of having that vision, okay, maybe we could cast him as something else. But not only does he play linebacker, but he becomes the best defensive player in the country, and now he's winning the awards to show that. I mean, that's got to be one of the more remarkable things you've ever been a part of.
Yeah, it's awesome. When I first got the job, Jalen and Terrell, we and Tyquan, a lot of those guys. I mean, I still stay connected. Ben Sims, a lot of those Baylor players, I'm really close with. But when I first got the job, Terrell and Jalen came out and spoke to the team and talked about, how they changed and became who they are. And, Jacob Rodriguez was in the room. Ben Roberts, number 13, that was the defensive player of the game or the player of the game. He was in the room, and they remind me a lot of those guys. They They're very serious about playing football. They spend a lot of time watching film. They play off of each other. John Curry, we call them the stash crew because all of them have mustaches. The 6, 13, and 10, they all have really good mustaches. And they're a lot like those guys. They love football and they love playing with each other. And so it was good to have those two come out and really pour into these guys, help them become better football players.
Could you have grown up a pretty good mustache in your college days, or was that? I don't think I was capable of it, and I don't even remember shaving really much in college. Is that? I mean, that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
When those guys can have one of those nice dark mustaches.
Yeah. I think it was 2010 because we always did something at Cedar Hill as coaches going into the playoffs. And in 2010, we all grew mustaches. And I think Debbie, actually, my wife, I think she wanted us to lose because she hated mine so bad. I'm not one of those people that look good with a mustache. And so I could grow one, but she actually was like, she was actually hoping, I think, we would lose.
That 2021 season we were just talking about, and then you remember you stayed with Baylor. A lot of Baylor people now I know come up to you and go, "Oh, we should have hired you, Joey," and everything. But you turn down UTSA, you get passed over. Dave Aranda gets hired at Baylor. Looking back, Joey, what did that do to you? Like, did that drive you to, not that you could, I don't know, you worked very hard anyway, but did that drive you to add anything to what you were doing or motivate you? We're always a lot of times looking for things that motivate us in life. That moment where you didn't really get maybe the consideration that a lot of people perhaps thought you deserved, but you decided to stay at Baylor. Was that kind of a watershed moment or a turning point in your career?
I always tell everybody, man, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't spent 5 years at Baylor working for Matt Rule and Dave Aranda, and I'm always very grateful for Coach Aranda. I mean, he knows this. You usually, if you interview for a job, you're usually not staying at that job. And, it was Garrett's senior year. He kept me. He put Garrett on scholarship. Garrett earned it, but Coach Aranda put him on scholarship. So I'm always grateful, and I'm always grateful for my time. I think more than anything, it prepared me for the interview for Texas Tech. Marcus Sedberry was in on that interview committee. And whenever I was getting ready to interview for Texas Tech, I was able to call him and say, okay, where did I go wrong? Where could I have been better? And he, again, talked me through, what I could do better. So I think more than anything, that was, that. I completely understand. LSU won a national championship. Coach Aranda was the defensive coordinator for that team, and he got the job, and he's won a Big 12 championship. You can't take that away from what they've done there, and so I appreciate my time at Baylor. I have some great friends and great memories at that place, and I always do love. And I tell Baylor fans whenever they come up to me, or alumni, man, thank you. We appreciate you. And I say the same thing, man. I'm rooting for Baylor. Unless we're playing them, I'm rooting for Baylor every single week.
Yeah. I wish you hadn't taken so many talented staffers with you is the only issue there. Yeah. How are you using, Joey, the long break to your advantage? Because the natural question will be, rest versus rust, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How do you stay, in the flow? And so now that teams are having to play, that maybe we're going to have a bye, they're kind of like, well, we're glad we get to play, but obviously you need to keep your team both. It's probably great to get some guys back, get them healthy, but it is a long layoff. Is it almost kind of like you just treat it like you would preparing for a bowl, like you've done for the last several years? How are you approaching this?
Well, I just wrote rest versus rust down. I'm gonna use it in my PowerPoint whenever we. So thank you for that.
Okay.
We're an old team. There's only been one team we've played this year, maybe two. But when we do our advanced scouting, Houston was the only team that we played this year that had more snaps than we did as a team. So we're an old football team. So I mean, I think that's going to play to our advantage of being ready to go. But we needed it. Like I call it football banged up. It's what every team is this time of year. But I felt like, and we talked about winning that game to get the bye. I felt like if it gave us time for our quarterback and, our three linebackers or a star and two linebackers have been playing banged up. Our left tackle was banged up going into the Big 12 championship game. The healthier we could be, the better chance we had. And then, quite frankly, if you want to look at it, you have to win one less game whenever you get the bye. And you never know what's going to happen in that game. How banged up do you get coming out of that first round game to go to the quarterfinals? And so we talked about, hey, we're playing for something. We knew BYU was playing for something. They were playing to get in the playoffs. We were playing for that bye, and our guys really wanted that bye.
You could also tell the story of some of our friends going to Cabo during one bye. If you think about the Dallas Cowboys many years ago, that would have been,
no doubt.
Yeah, 2007 season, by the way. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think any of your guys are going to try to run off and go to Cabo. But you remember that story well.
Oh yeah.
I think people think about when you said there's another gear for us. I think that's interesting because, I mean, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you is like how you've evolved. Like, what's the biggest difference in this team now than day one? And then what is that next gear for this Texas Tech team in your mind?
Well, one, getting our quarterback is healthy. He's actually the last two games, the West Virginia game and the BYU game, he's been a lot more mobile, where he hasn't been, especially the first time we played BYU and we played UCF. So him getting healthy, I think that helps a bunch. And then just the hunger of this team of wanting to get to the next game. I think you're just going to see that they're going to play harder and harder. And our guys play extremely hard. Our defense reminds me a lot of the 2019 Baylor defense, the 2021 Baylor defense, just how hard those guys played. You had a lot of vets on both of those defenses. And so I think that's where we have another gear. A lot of it has to do with it, quarterback feeling better and better every single week.
Man, he has been so important to your program. And in this era of quarterbacks coming and going and getting paid here and there, I guess it was helpful, wasn't it, to have a kid who'd always wanted to play at Tech. I believe he's from Eastland, Texas. How big a role did that play? And it's like y'all had to kind of continue to make the commitment to him, but in some ways he had to continue to make the commitment to you guys in this crazy kind of portal world that we live in now. What has he meant to Tech, especially like this season, even when y'all changed or when he was hurt? I do think in that, your backup came in and did such a nice job in that Utah game that there were probably people going, you know what, that guy's pretty dang good, and he probably is. But I think people maybe have more of an appreciation for Behren than they've ever had about right now.
Yeah, really cool story. In June, we were both talking, and we were walking out of the building together, and we were talking and we both said, hey, look, man, when we win this Big 12, we knew we were a good football team. When we win the Big 12, let's walk out of the stadium together, because we have a lot of doubters. People have doubted Behren Morton, one, because he's been banged up, but he plays through a lot of stuff. He's the toughest kid I've ever coached. And he's played through a lot of stuff where a lot of quarterbacks wouldn't have. And then, people have doubted me. I still get, if I lose a game, I still get, he's just a high school coach, and so I said, let's prove some people wrong. Let's walk out of the stadium together. And his dad sent me a text going into the Big 12 championship week, and he said, I want two things. He said, number one, I want y'all to go win the Big 12 championship. He said, number 2, I want a picture of you and Behren walking out of the stadium together. And we did it. You know, we both said going into that game, hey, when this is all over, there's going to be confetti. We're going to be up on stage, all this stuff. Neither one of us leave without each other. And it was really cool. Like after it was all over and pictures and all this stuff, I turned to him. I said, "You ready to go?" And he said, "I'm ready to go, coach." And we were walking out together and had our guns up. And, you know, I think people are really starting to appreciate him that didn't before, that didn't understand, you know, some of the stuff that he went through and some of the stuff he played through. And, man, he's special. He'll leave. You know, he was born in Lubbock. This is his dream school. He graduated from Texas Tech. He'll leave as one of the all-time greats, without a doubt.
Man, it's fun to watch, and he's a tough kid. And again, like you say, he's had his ups and downs, and it'd be, you know, I mean, I can remember, but when he's on, and right now the team seems to be rallying around him. He's not seemed like a guy though that's comfortable. He does not want to grow the mustache. He seems like a guy who's comfortable without one. The D line is unbelievable. You know, Lee, David, I heard you talking about Romello Height recently, and the list goes on and on. You talked about people that last year were starters, and they had to accept, okay, do I want to, I mean, they're bringing all these people in here. Do I want to be a part of a rotation? You know, what is this going to be like? First of all, what are you and Blanchard and others in your personnel department when you say this is what I want or this is what I'm looking at? What are those traits? Because listen, even at Baylor, I heard it the other day. Got to build inside out. Got to go build inside out. Got to start over. Got to look at our evaluation process. Where is that? I don't want to do everything in the context of Baylor, but just at Tech, what are those traits that you're saying to Blanchard or your group when y'all meet? Here's what I want, and then what do they kind of bring to you? Because you kind of get final say, obviously, because y'all seem to have like hit on all these guys.
Yeah, so it starts with production over potential. You know, I don't care. Like when it first, we'll start with the transfer portal. You know, I don't care how many stars they had coming out of high school. We're not paying for that. We're not going to evaluate what they did in high school. It's production over potential. What they're doing, you know, no matter what level they were at, how productive are they? We also really try to look at like what kind of person they were on their previous team. Were they a team captain, you know, or did they go to media day? Did they, you know, did the former coach of who they played for, you know, did they think of them that way? So we're looking for a lot of stuff like that and intangibles. But the biggest thing is, you know, how many snaps? Because if they're a backup for another team, they're going to be a backup for us, you know, and so we're not looking for that. We're looking for guys that could start and be extremely productive. And, you know, we spent, I mean, in this day and age, everybody's got a payroll, you know, and trust me, we don't have the highest payroll, even though a lot of people want to say that because Texas Tech's never been where they're at right now. So that's the easy way for them to say, you know, there's a lot of guys in the playoffs right now that have a higher payroll than we do. And so the one thing we did do, though, we wanted to value the trenches and we wanted to make sure that we were better up front on both sides of the ball to try to go win the Big 12. So whenever we looked at who we were going to bring in, you know, we brought in Lee Hunter, A.J. Holmes, Skylar Gill-Howard, David Bailey, Romello Height. So there's 5 D linemen right there that we brought in. You know, when you turn around on the offensive side of the ball, you know, we brought in Will Jadis and we brought in Hunter Zambrano, who hadn't played this year, that we'll get back. We were able to, he got really banged up, and so we were able to get him back through medical. But we were able to get, you know, Howard Sampson. So we were really pushing hard for big people, you know, and Blanchard always says when we're talking about D linemen, what would the Philadelphia Eagles do? They would just go draft another defensive lineman. And that's really what we look at. You know, like if we're looking at a spot to where we can add, we're trying to add in the D line and the O line.
Yeah, well, what they would do is take a kid from Georgia is
Yeah.
generally what they would do, but maybe it'll become take a kid from Texas Tech, right? And more teams have done that, and I think Bailey is showing up at number 6 on some of these mock drafts. That's interesting that Texas Tech had not had that outright championship since like something insane, like 1955.
Yeah.
I bet you have heard from a lot of interesting folks. You talked about some of the notes you got, but I mean, you think about, and even going back before Cody Campbell and Sellers and all those guys, like the people that have played there for generations, some great players. I think of Zach and some of those, but I bet that there's an immense amount of pride in y'all doing that. And even though this conference now looks way different than the conferences they played in and everything, it's got to be just a huge source of pride for everybody, I would think.
Yeah, it is, man. It's I've gotten notes from different people that, hey, man, I've been waiting all my life. I've gotten notes from, guys, man, my dad would be so proud. One of the guy that's over our really kind of media creative teams and all that stuff, Robert Giovanetti, everybody calls him Gio. He was smiling, and then he was riding on the 5th bus, and my wife was on that bus, and she said, as he was pulling into the stadium, he was getting teared up. And, he was talking about how growing up, they had season tickets, and his dad was always a Red Raider fan that, and he was like, man, my dad would love this moment. So there is so many people that are so excited about what we've done and the potential of what we get to do getting into these playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and it's not that far off. And I also with the CFP like it is, Joey, A&M having the year they've had. You and I are both grew up as children of the SWC, and we loved it, and we loved all those teams and everything. But how cool is that to have Tech and A&M? And I know people, some Tech people are like, hey, we need to be the team that ends up in Arlington. I know where your focus is. It's like, let's win this first game before we worry about where we end up being. But from an old SWC nostalgia deal, that's pretty awesome, isn't it, to see a couple of old SWC foes in the middle of this thing?
Yeah, it is, it's great. Whenever I've talked to Aggies, I've got one of my best friends. He's an Aggie. I think we all have one at least. They're doing the same thing. I mean, they haven't been this is as easily, if not one of the most successful since you go back to their days of the 50s, 40s, and 50s, that they're at a point that they haven't been at. And so it's awesome for 2 Texas teams to be able to do what we're doing, and there's some really good teams, in the state of Texas that had great years. North Texas, Eric Morris had a great year. Willie Fritz at Houston had a great year, and did a really good job with that Houston team. And so it's fun. It's fun to see those guys, but it's really cool to see A&M and Texas Tech in the college football playoffs.
All right. And Joey, do you have to put an asterisk on this 12-1 record though, or because you didn't play Baylor this season?
No, man. I'll take the 12 wins, trying to get to 13, 14, and 15. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be 15-1.
Yeah.
Got to get to 13 before we can get there. But
yeah.
Now we get Baylor in Waco next year, so we'll be ready for that.
All right. Yeah. Some of us were kind of mad that's a great, long, fun rivalry. And I know you can't get everything right in a conference, and you got to protect certain things, but I may try to take over scheduling moving forward. I know you would. But anyway, that'll be good to get everybody back together. Joey, I appreciate it. It's been fun watching you on the shows, watching you. I thought, what's his name just fell in love with you, Pat McAfee.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And that crew, and you got to watch it because those guys are allowed to say anything. I guess I could on YouTube, but you know me, I'm too Baptist to throw out too much language. But one of those guys dropped an F-bomb on you. I'm like, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my!
I started laughing. It was good, man. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. All right. We got Ric Flair. Anybody coming out for anything or anything we need to?
No, not that I know of.
All right. Hey, I appreciate you doing this, and I man, wish you guys the best of luck, and man, go win this thing.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man.
All right, there he goes, Joey McGuire, joining the Matt Mosley Show here on Rogue Media Network, and we appreciate him so much. And Joey, been a great friend for a lot of years, and was an incredible high school coach. Won all those state titles right there at Cedar Hill, and then he put it off for a while, but then he became a college coach, and the rest is history. So good to have him on, especially at a time when Tech's getting ready to go on this big run. It's a really cool thing. Thank you for everybody who was a part of this thing today. Thank you to the Z-Man for subbing in, doing a great job for us. It is the Matt Mosley Show. We will see you Monday at 1 o'clock.